I mean, actually, if we're going to talk about balance, let's skip ahead to something because I have to ask about it. Because as someone who's grown up watching nature documentaries and wildlife programs and stuff, the people who do them, they're often put in really difficult situations. You'll see, I don't know, Steve Backshaw's a great example. He'll go out, climb up a mountain, he'll get ill, and you're like, oh, of course, there's extreme hardship out there. Most people, though, it happens during the shoot. And if I'm getting this right, and I might get the science wrong, you had your kneecap taken off and put back on, and then you went out filming?
Well, I have had trouble with my knees. Where, long story short, basically both my knees grew weirdly, and I didn't realize it until I was sort of stopped growing. That I used to do quite a lot of athletics, and then my knees just started behaving badly. And then they went to a surgeon, and he was like, "Oh, your knees are sort of sit too high up on your leg, and so the joint doesn't work properly." So I had to have two massive operations that were spaced 2 years apart, to basically take my kneecaps sort of off, and then sort of put them a bit lower, screw them back on, and then reattach all the muscles, which was horrible. And the recovery for each knee was 18 months. But what was interesting is during that period of disability, where I was utterly dependent on the people around me to help put my pants on, put my socks on, everything, help me in the shower. It was incredibly insightful, because it for a moment it was a tiny glimpse into what it must be like to have limited mobility, and just the sheer joy of, I was in a wheelchair for a tiny bit, and the joy of being able to go and be wheeled along the seafront by my parents and just be able to be outside again, and the frustration that came with, oh, I just want to go for a run, or I want to go on my bike again. And of course, I'm so lucky to be able to do that now. But to have had that experience again, it just made me think, oh my goodness, so lucky to be able to have health and fitness, and to be able to really appreciate how vital nature must be for those, even more so with limited mobility. And so, access to nature in all senses of the term is really important to me. It's another thing of just so easy to take these sorts of things for granted. But yeah, it had its added challenges, but it's meant that sort of I try and value it more than ever, because I know that it's just a lifeline in many ways for
It was
many people.
fascinating because, you went to like the bird hide and stuff, and it was something that hadn't even crossed my mind about whether a bird hide is accessible via
Yeah.
a wheelchair, right?
Oh, totally. Yeah. I mean, it just was such a challenge, and also, it puts a spotlight on you when you're in a public place like a bird hide, and you're trying to negotiate getting inside the bird hide in a wheelchair. And I had my dad helping me and stuff, and I think that's why I wanted to make that little video, because I was just like, hang on, this is just so not right. It's so unfair. If there are beautiful places and it's inconsistently accessible, so some places are really accessible and brilliantly cater for people with limited mobility, and other places are beautiful but only accessible by foot. And I was like, well, that's not right, because why is it only that some people can enjoy it and other people can't? So yeah, it's just, and access to nature is one of those ongoing conversations that just is such a huge, complicated topic. But it's so important to keep talking about it. And my very short, very almost privileged experience of being immobile has just really highlighted how important it is to get it right, in terms of making sure that as many people as possible have the same experiences that we do.
It was amazing. I think it was the first wildlife film I'd seen from someone in a wheelchair as well, which was quite, I mean, maybe there's been others. I might be talking completely out of turn there, but from my personal viewing, that was a really cool thing to see.
Well, it was interesting. I mean, to be honest, I'd totally forgotten that I did that. And it was just something that I made to kind of keep me occupied when I was really bored, not being able to do much. But then I felt it was really important. And It's one of my most popular tweets I think that I ever did, that just said, hang on a sec, why is this the case?
Mm.
Why, and it's such a silly thing that it would take. It almost seems so self-indulgent of me to only appreciate that when I'm in that position.
Yeah.
It seems very selfish, or very kind of privileged of me to sort of say, oh, I could only appreciate that when I was personally in that position. So it kind of was just a wake-up call of, hang on, stop it. These people there are so many people who are in this position all the time and don't ever grumble about it. Let's try and do whatever we can. And now I'm in a position where I work for a charity, and I sit on a committee of another charity, and so I'm in a very lucky role to voice these concerns, and potentially to people who can maybe sort it out.